Welcome to Lions Vision Production Studios. My name is LaTia, founder and executive producer for Lions Vision Productions. I am so excited to finally bring to you all the introduction of what is now the Lions Vision Productions Addiction Trilogy. I was inspired to produce this type of project because addiction for me is so personal. As you all know, if you've read any of my content, any of my posts, you interact with me, or you know that I'm passionate about addiction, and I'm passionate about the population of addicts, because for me it's personal. I've lost my parents to addiction. I've lost all of the people that I love most on this earth to addiction, and for me that population is underserved, and I think that we need to humanize not only the addict but the addictive process, and that's what really inspired this project. I wanted to humanize addiction in a way that it is real. It is a real thing, and it affects people and families and relationships, and I wanted to make that clear with this project. The Lions Vision Productions Addiction Trilogy is a 3-part feature film that we shot in 3 installments. The first installment, Conflicted, introduces us to the Jackson family. The Jackson family is indicative of a lot of families that we know and recognize. In the hood, how many people do you know who are good ball players, good singers, good rappers? They have the talent, but for whatever reason and poor life choices, they never get to see their dreams realized. But that's what this story is about. Marcus is his family's prized possession. He's a recent college graduate. He's on the verge of signing a record deal. He is that it guy. The second installment is Addicted, because you guessed it, Marcus made the wrong choice, and Marcus's life would take a downward spiral and he would hit rock bottom. This process of addiction really will not only test Marcus, but it'll test the love between he and his brother and his mother and her boys. And it shows addiction in a real way, and how addiction impacts people and how it ultimately impacts families and the family structure. Which brings us to the last installment, Convicted, because while Marcus is in his addiction, in installment 2, he gets into some real trouble. And so at this point, Marcus has a decision to make. He has to decide, is he going to live a life of crime and addiction, or is he going to try to have some form of the dream he always had? I am so excited and so proud of this film and the work that we were able to do in this film, and I cannot wait for you all to see it. By far, my favorite part of producing this movie was the casting. As a writer, you want to see your characters come to life. This started for me as what I thought was going to be a short project. In fact, when we started filming in summer of 2021, I had only written the first installment, Conflicted. I hadn't even written the second 2 installments yet, but during the casting process, they really gave me what I wanted in these characters, and I did not want the characters to change in between installments. So after we locked cast on Conflicted, I asked the cast straight out. I said, I'm in this. If you're in this with me, I guarantee you we can produce all 3 installments this summer. I will get you a new script every 2 weeks so that we can finish this movie this summer. They locked on with me, and we were full steam ahead. The characters that we initially cast for the first installment, we expanded those roles, and they continue through the entire trilogy. Let me introduce you to the cast. So for Marcus, I knew what I wanted Marcus to look like. I knew how I wanted him to sound. I knew he had to have waves, and Altariq Linton gave me everything I needed in my character Marcus. He had the charisma enough to bring Marcus's cool side out. Then he had that also corny edge that would kind of counteract the coolness of his brother Kevin. Kevin is played by Hyneth Jones. Kevin had to be hardcore, he had to be street, and it had to be natural. Kevin couldn't act. Kevin had to be Kevin from the gate. And Hanif Jones gave me Kevin, and he gave it to me from the first audition, no callback. We casted him for that role. The next role was Sharon, the mom. Sharon was an interesting character because Sharon had two boys going the opposite direction who she had to somehow love the same. And we needed her to show the struggles of a single mom, to show the determination of a mom who has a child on the verge of success and one with his foot in the streets. We needed to show the vulnerability of Sharon and how, while she loved Kevin, she really wanted Marcus to make it. And she kind of knew as a mom the influence that Kevin had over Marcus. So when Karen was casted, she came into the audition in scrubs. She read the script. She was exactly what we wanted to see out of Sharon, and she gave it to us. Every main character needs a support, right? In this trilogy, Rod, who is Marcus's best friend, is played by Ralph McKenzie. And Ralph was exactly who I needed Ralph to be. He was pro-black, he was a good friend, but he had limits. And in this movie, you see the relationship between Marcus and Ralph and how it conflicts with the relationship between Marcus and his brother Kevin. And it's really surprising how this plays out and how addiction changes that relationship. But our next character is Mr. Smith, played by Kirk Charles. You might know Kirk because Kirk is on a lot of commercials that are airing right now. And Kirk gave me everything I needed in a reformed drug dealer, ex-hustler turned drug counselor. He was stern, he was no nonsense, but he had a real affection for Marcus and a real affection for the family. He has history in the neighborhood. Everyone knows Mr. Smith as an OG, and for our drug counselor, he did everything we needed Mr. Smith to do. Kevin is the only one that got an opportunity to have a love interest in this movie. Kevin's girlfriend, Tracy, played by Lacey Harper, was this sassy, no-nonsense, but deeply wanting love chick who we all know. She wanted the integrity of her family. If she could have had anything, it would have been Kevin on the right path. And as much as he tried, as much as he promised, as much as she wanted him to do the right thing, Kevin just wasn't ready. The relationship between Kevin and Tracy puts Tracy in a predicament where ultimately she also has to decide what's best for her. When I was writing installment 2, we had to keep the story growing, so we added a couple of characters. Miss Kathy, who played by Leilani Cartledge, was the neighbor of Marcus's family, and she knew Marcus when Marcus was that guy. And it was surprising the interaction that they would have that would somehow play a part in what Marcus's next step would be. The next character that we add was the judge, and the judge was played by Carlo Forletta, who looked the part, he sounded the part, he even came with wardrobe. He did an excellent job playing the judge, and it was so believable. And the scene between Marcus and the judge where Marcus is having virtual court, I had been in that scene so many times. The final character that we added was added to the final installment of Conflicted. And because Marcus didn't have a love interest, we wanted to give him a little crush. So Trina, who plays a staff person at the drug treatment facility where Marcus is, they had a little back and forth, although it never got hot and heavy. Trina had originally one line, but she brought it in that one line that we expanded her role in the last installment. And that really made up the principal cast for the trilogy. So what's next for the project? Well, the Lions Vision Productions Addiction Trilogy is going to film festival circuit. You're going to see all 3 installments showcased as a feature film in the New York, New Jersey, and a couple of the national film festivals. We are excited to bring this project to the world. I'm mostly excited to showcase this ensemble cast that I was able to put together and really just share the story because I think it's one that we'll all relate to. This project for me was a lifelong dream. I'm so blessed that I have a supportive husband who just allows me the freedom to be free and to write and create and to do what I want to be doing in my life right now. I'm so thankful for him, who not only helped finance but played whatever extra role or crew role I needed him to play. I'm so grateful to the crew that I was able to assemble in such a short time that worked over the summer. Amanda, who was my first AD through all 3 installments. My lead, Altariq Linton, who still works with us at Lions Vision Production Studios, who was not only the lead, but by the last installment, we were down like 4 crew members. He was crew and talent. I'm thankful for all the people that lent their time and energy and talent, as whether it was an extra or they helped us just to, in any kind of way, whether it was craft or whatever. I'm thankful for everybody, and I'm happy. I'm happy with the project, and I hope that you see in the project what I see in the project, and I look forward to bringing it to you in the near future, hopefully 2022. Thank you.